Alchemy Radio. Alchemy Radio. Alchemy Radio. Analyze. Conceive. Believe. Are you tuned in?
Hello and welcome to Alchemy Radio, where the only thing we ask of you is that you keep an open mind. Today's guest is Santos Bonacci. Santos lives in Melbourne, Australia. He's a professional jazz musician and he also runs the universaltruthschool.com website as well as teaching classes on astrotheology. Today we'll be talking about the power of the church, the power of the judiciary, enslavement and ownership, along with historical myths and fictional characters that have created deception among the masses. We'll also be talking about the priesthood, which is essential for the current control system, symbology found in court, the law and beyond, and we'll also discuss the holy science of know thyself as above, so below. Santos, you're very welcome to Alchemy Radio. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks, John. Yourself?
I'm really good, thanks. Looking out at the wet and miserable weather, but hey, what can you do? I'm sure it's very different for you in Melbourne.
Yeah. Well, today's been a bit of a Four Seasons day, which is typical here in Melbourne, but finally it's the sun's setting, it's 7 p.m. and the clouds have disappeared. It was very windy though, so weather's not really acting as it should typically. Certainly it's the last couple of years the weather has, the seasons have shifted somewhat.
Well, there's been big change over the last few years, and we're going to delve into that in some depth over the next hour or so. But before we do, give us a bit about your background, Santos, and how you became interested in what it is we'll be speaking about.
Okay, well, probably what I'm mostly interested in is theology, really. Theology, cosmology, mythology, just the things that carry the most import, and in particular when you're a young child and you're impressed by these stories, you know, some of them are grotesque, you know, like for instance in the Bible there's Samson. He kills 30 men just to get their underwear so he can give it to his buddies because he made a promise at his wedding feast that he would give them some underwear if they guessed the riddle. As you do. So they guess the riddle and Samson goes off and he goes down to Ashkelon and he kills 30 men. He donks them over the head with a lump of 4x4, steals their dirty underwear, gives it to his buddies. Now, these are gross stories. Jonah getting swallowed by a whale and then vomited out. All of these stories, but it's obvious that they carry the seeds of some other kind of truth which you are not privy to just at the literal rendition of it. This is why the scriptures say the letter of the word kills, but the spirit gives life. So I guess I was always searching for what was beyond the letter of the word. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm reading about Kronos eating all his children, and then Zeus manages to castrate his father, and this is all just powerful stories. And ever since I was a little child, I just wondered, well, what the hell does this mean? What does it mean? And of course, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay. And
my parents, I grew up in northeast Victoria, in the Victorian Alps, in a little town called Myrtleford. And we used to go to the book study every week. You go to someone's house and you study a book based on the Bible, as Jehovah's Witnesses do, you see.
Right.
And we used to study the Babylon the Great Has Fallen book, and a little red book. And I was probably only about 6 or 7 when we first got stuck into that book. Now, that kind of stuff leaves an impression on you. So I've been into theology all my life. Now, I guess what makes you want to uncover the truth and serve truth, I guess that would be, it has to do with when you're ready, that's the path you choose, you see, because you can't serve two masters. You can't be materialistic and keeping up with the Joneses, and then pretending that you're spiritual, because there's your spiritual nature and there's your physical nature.
Yeah.
As simple as that. And there's nothing wrong with physical, and there's nothing better than there's nothing so great about spiritual that hasn't got evil in it. Spirit has got a little bit of evil in it, and what we call evil matter has also got beauty in it. It's just a dance of motion of the universe, you see. But if you're going to serve one, you need to make a decision. But if you're going to be building houses and buying properties and getting involved in the stock market and away you go, what happens is the other part of your life will suffer. There's no doubt about that. And so that's what the expression means. And I've always been inclined to study theology. I've been a Bible student. I've studied symbolism and numerology and stuff like that. Now, I've never really gotten it for most of my life. Only until the last 6 or 7 years have I really gotten it, and have put all this stuff together so that it makes sense. And now I believe, I know, and I shouldn't say I believe, but I know that my presentations that I've offered on for free to the public, to the world, on my on the internet, for example, I know that they will be able to join the dots for people, because it's the true theology. What you get in churches is not the true theology. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They exist. Churches exist because they must be sharing their version of the truth, or their patented style. You know, like the Jehovah's Witnesses have definitely got some things that the Mormons disagree with, that the Pentecostals disagree with, and that the Catholics condemn to hell altogether.
Yeah.
But they all call themselves Christians, and they're all going to be saved, and they're all the true church. If you want to join them, they won't tell you, "Hey, come to us. We teach a whole crock of." Trying to attract people by saying that they are the truth path. You see, so I guess it's up to the individual to sort out the wheat from the chaff, and one can do that with the true theology. What I'm teaching is syncretism, and I call it the true theology because that's what it is. And syncretism unites all the theologies. It doesn't separate them. It doesn't say, "Oh, let's poo-poo Hinduism and let's put, say, Islam on a pedestal." Because we understand Islam, but I'm not very fluent in Hinduism. Well, it's like saying, "Hey, Mr. Japanese man, I don't understand Japanese, therefore it's a pseudo language."
Yeah.
It's false.
Yeah.
Japanese is absolutely false. I can't understand a word of it. Well, you wouldn't do that. And yet you've got Muslims that will outright condemn Judaism, and Jews that will condemn Christians, and Christians that will condemn Hindus, and they're all in a very, very sad and sorry state because they cannot see that it is all one. How can it be? How can it not be? How can God, the universe, or the oneness, universe, how can it be divided and fragmented and compartmentalized? Only in the minds of weak human beings can such a thing exist, and in fact it does. You go to university and you come out of there and you're a specialist in one thing. You know diddly squat about others, but you can come out and you've got your engineering degree, or you've got your doctorate in this or your doctorate in that. And usually some of those men are, pretty impressive with what they know about that one subject, but they're pretty stone motherless dumb when it comes to everything that you should need to know to be a complete and honourable and decent living hero on this planet. Because the hero's path is the true path that we are seeking for, to rise above the human condition, which is rather sorry condition in many ways. We can't escape sickness. We can't escape death, it seems. We can't escape jealousy and vices and wars. And it seems that we are perennially locked into this cycle of repeating the same stupidities. And that's because the majority who are not in the higher mind and who are serving the lower mind and the lower purposes of materialism and commerce and all of the commerce that you do down here in this humid, swampy place, as the philosophers call it. But to rise above, we must return to our paradise, our true home, which is unconditioned consciousness. As we descend and fall into this place called Earth, require certain vestments, according to the philosophers, and we are clothed with a garment, a sevenfold garment, and this is Joseph's many-coloured garment. And you can see this when you look at the chakras along the spinal system, the plexuses, and you'll notice that they are the same colours as the rainbow. And this is the garment. Those red colours, they resonate, each one of them, with either a vice or a virtue. And it's your choice whether you want to descend down the caduceus, which is the spinal cord, and you want to go down to the red at the bottom, or whether you want to go to the indigo at the top and climb Jacob's ladder and see God face to face and live. Because that's what Jacob did in the book of Genesis. And then he said, wow, I've come to a real special kind of a place. I'm going to call this place Pineal.
So there's your pineal gland.
Absolutely. And according to the philosophers, that's the seat of the soul. This is the throne of God inside of man, which is the temple of Solomon. Our beautiful bodies are an exquisite chemical laboratory, a temple, a living temple. It lives. Our bodies live. And our bodies are directed by spirit. And wherever we want to direct our bodies, all we need to do is to tell our limbs to move to the left or to the right, forward or backward, and they obey. Because the fleshly organism is an exquisite creation by the causal creator. And we owe our thanks to that source. And this is why if we deliver our bodies as a holy thing back to the universe, we will fulfill what we came to fulfill on this planet, which is to return to the state we were in before we fell. And so, and this is the whole story of the true theology. You'll find it in Christianity. It's very well explained in the Gospels. It's a beautiful story. Unfortunately, people misunderstand them. Hence, the motivation for me to be motivated to want to share with people how to understand the true theology. It's all based on science. If you can put your science hat on and see things. When you're reading the scriptures, you can see things with the science eyes. You will then be able to decipher what the scriptures are really meaning. Because all the scriptures were written in a very wise way. They were sealed, you see. They were sealed with 7 seals, 7 levels of interpretation. And the bottom level is the literal level. And that's the one you teach your children. So you teach your children the physical anthropomorphic models like Santa Claus, for instance.
Right.
You tell people that Santa Claus is a man. Well, Santa Claus is not a man. But it's good to teach your children that he's a man because children then create archetypal models in their minds, and they have models now that they can follow, examples of goodness. But you're supposed to then tell your child when he turns 12 years old or 11 or whatever, you're supposed to tell them that Santa Claus is the holy claustrum inside your head. The claustrum is a little like a closet or an enclosure, a cloister in your midbrain, in your not your midbrain, in your just below the cerebrum, and it produces a fluid which descends down the spinal cord. And you see, this is Santa Claus going down the chimney to bring you presents. And the holy claustrum, as it's called in physiology, is also called the Santa claustrum.
Wow.
And so, rather than leaving children in the dark and just terminating their relationship with a historical, literal Santa Claus by telling them that he doesn't exist, and then off you go, and sorry about lying to you, and Santa Claus is a fiction, rather than leaving children, with an emptiness that might confuse them, because they might think, well, why the hell did I have to learn about this model, this person, this entity called Santa Claus, and then all of a sudden I get told that he doesn't exist? Well, this is the sad and sorry state of humanity, that parents are not even capable of teaching their children what Santa Claus really is. And Santa Claus is all of the 6 levels above the literal level, and there are always 6 superior interpretations and applications to every single scripture that has ever been recorded properly. And that's how the holy science is done. It's literature that hides truths. You see, even in the Gospels, it says that Jesus did not speak if he did not speak with parables, so that the outsiders would not understand and the insiders would gather meaning, you see. So I guess I've answered the question about my path and how I got to here, but rest assured that every single individual that has ever lived will walk through the confusion and the mud and the mire, and eventually through persistence and trials and tribulations and endurance, one comes through this, and one eventually learns the true meaning of the scriptures. And I'm so blessed. I am so happy that I have done the full circle, and I'm not still stuck in flatland or church world where I'm a believer and not a knower. I would prefer to know all things rather than believe all things. Believing is associated with stupidity. Belief is for fools. The age of Pisces was the age of doubt and belief. The Aquarius, the sign that is coming, is the sign of knowing. For the motto of Aquarius is I know. And this is why people now are getting knowledge, gnosis, and they are benefiting from this. You can see that many people are shifting their consciousns, and they are awakening, and the scripture's been fulfilled that says that the dead shall rise. And rising they are rising in a very high and superior state of consciousness. This is what the ascension means. This is what an ascended master is. A master who comes to this planet and ascends is called a savior, simply because they've saved themselves. And salvation is a process by which we save ourselves from the destruction of the lower mind and acting like an animal and serving the 7 vices, turning that around, saving oneself, entering the higher mind, and turning the vices into virtues, and returning to the unfallen state that we truly live in.
So essentially, Santos, what we're doing is looking for a universal truth, but we seem to be, in a tribal sense, divided and split, and that truth is hidden from us. So how can one go about actually decoding this truth as you have done?
Well, I would persist in reading the scriptures. I would not let anyone interpret them for you. I wouldn't be going. I'd be getting out of the church, lose the church label. These are fictions. It's as much a fiction as your citizenship to a country is. You know, if you're a citizen of Poland, and you can't be, let's say, a citizen of the United States, well, what makes these are fictional constructs. You see, it virtually means nothing, and the same is true of your church label. You see, a lot of people are fond of being Pentecostal or Baptist or whatever. These are just labels. These mean nothing. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 21, says there, "For many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not expel demons in your name? Did we not perform wonderful and powerful works in your name? Did we not preach in your name?" And then the Lord says, and I tell you truly that in that day I will say to these, "Get away from me, you workers of lawlessness. I never knew you." Because Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, these are things that are practiced. These are languages that are expressed and practiced in the heart, in one's heart. You can't go to a church and label yourself with that church's name and pretend that you are now a spiritual person because you've got a label. This will never happen. And the people who turn to these false idols, these fictions, will be bitterly disappointed. For salvation comes from within. It's a process that one goes through and initiates themselves to be able to climb up from the mire and unsully themselves and purify themselves. The word purify comes from fire, and fire is the universal cleanser. Water is also the universal solvent. This is why we have a baptism with water, and this is why the scriptures say you shall be baptized with fire, because you want to clean yourself. You know, you want to get cleaned, and you can't clean yourself. You imagine if you had a shower with, you know, some pizza cheese every night, you know, or some spaghetti bolognese.
Almost sounds good.
Yeah, tastes great, but you're not going to get clean. So you want to sprinkle some water over you, and if you want to, you know, have a bonfire and burn all your rubbish, you do actually feel very, very clean and cleansed after you've gotten rid of all that. It's all gone. It's all gone. It's all transmuted into other elements, and it's gone back to carbon monoxide. And the universe receives the changed elements, and you don't have to worry about them anymore. So this is why we need to be baptized in spirit and fire and water. These are elements. They're purifying elements. That's all they are. And so happy is the one that sees the true meaning of all things, of symbols, of words, of numbers, etc. Because when you do that, you know the truth, and the truth sets you free. You are liberated from the illusions and from the priestcraft. It's very difficult to be seduced once this happens, and this is why the priests are so eager to tell you their truth and to deny the true truth that is in the domain of all, if only they should consult their hearts and minds and go within. They can't afford to let people do that because they would lose their craft. And their craft is to sell people lies that will seduce them and keep them serving the lower God, the materialistic God, which, well, you know, well and good, that's fine. If people want to do that, that's great. But they will just remain in the lower worlds, continually suffering and having many, many burdens to carry. Whereas if we should decide to free ourselves and purify ourselves, there is a path back to unconditioned consciousness and pure bliss and existence, immortal existence. Our spirit nature is immortal. Our physical nature is mortal.
And do you think, Santos, that the reason for this suppression then by the powers that be, and we will get into who exactly they are at a later point, but do you think this suppression is because quite simply these people or entities see us as chattel or property who are just there to be used for their own nefarious means.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. These are these are entities who are very, very destructive. They cannot find the pattern of good and love. They might spend 1% of their energy devoted to good works and charity, and they do a little bit of lip service to it, but deep down there is only one God for these ones, and that is Gammon. That is the filthy lucre and the power that it generates. And you can see that because you see how politicians, there's not many poor politicians out there.
True.
There's not many poor magistrates and judges, and basically all of the corruption, all of the perversion comes from the people that we intuitively trust the most, or we should. For instance, a judge, a magistrate, should be an honourable person who is mature and wise and almost angelic, divine and godly, full of good, full of praise from the community, full of kindness and good deeds. And these are people that we should be choosing for these positions. But what we see on the other hand is we see criminals calling themselves judges. These are wolves in sheep's coverings. Yeah. They are men who will, at the drop of the hat, just for their gammon, they'll send an 18-year-old boy to prison for 5 years where he can be raped and tortured just for smoking the wrong plant that God happened to make. And these are dishonourable, animalistic men. The worst kind are people who call themselves lawyers and priests. This is why in the Gospels it says, "Woe to you lawyers, woe to you scribes and Pharisees, you shut up the kingdom of the heavens." That's all you do. You are here to shut up the kingdom of the heavens. You don't open it. There's no opening. There's no way you can go to the Catholic Church and be saved. Absolutely, the Catholic Church is there for the eternal damnation of souls. Not that they will be eternally damned. That's their myth. The only way you can be eternally damned is if you are absolutely out and out evil with no redemption at all possible. And there are some entities who have gone beyond that point of no return. And rest assured, there are entities there. But people who have joined, say, the Catholic Church, the most dishonourable organisation in the history of the universe, these are very, very sorry people, and the highway to hell is paved with good intentions. They will suffer immensely in the afterlife. Eventually they will come to the light. Eventually they will find their way, but the Catholic path is the way to destruction and damnation without a doubt. There's not a doubt. Absolutely not a doubt, not a shred of a doubt. You can't possibly be saved as a Jehovah's Witness or a Baptist or a Mormon. These are fictional paths to seduce weak-minded, mediumistic type individuals who pay lip service to truth and who have a fleeting interest in the subject, but when you study them and when you recognize them by their fruits, as Jesus says, by their fruits you will recognize them. Why are you so confused? I mean, if you've got a good tree, you can go to it in the summertime and you can pick good fruit. But if you've got a scabby tree and it produces rotten fruit, well, that tree, you can't fix it. You've just got to chop it down and put another tree in its place, replant it. So this is what is going on. It's the churches are funded by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and creepy families like the Flavians and the Piso family and the Warburgs and the Schiffs and the Hanovers and the Habsburgs and the Saxe-Coburg-Gothers, and it's all one big family. It's a bunch of pirate criminal families who are the blind leading the blind, and who themselves are servants of destruction, and all of the foot soldiers that follow them shall be destroyed equally as they are, as they will be. But the true servants of light, these are the ones you'll find that get knocked off, like Giordano Bruno, Pico della Mirandola, Hypatia, Boethius, guys like Ezra Pound that wind up in mental asylums because Truman, I think it was, didn't like the truth that he was teaching. All of the geniuses and all of the truth speakers have been either ridiculed, blasphemed, put in mental asylums, knocked off, and put out of the way so that we can have this beautiful cabal of criminals called the Vatican and the Jesuits and the Windsor family, pirates of the high seas with their maritime laws and their commerce and all of their blasphemous Babylonian idol worship. You see, they run a system called patriarchy, Babylon. Baba is an Arabic word. It means daddy. It means papa. In fact, that's the word that the Romans adopted straight from Baba, and they just, rather than B-A-B-A, they changed it to P-A-P-A, Papa, and that's what you call the Pope in my language, in Italian. And because the papacy is Babylonia, and Baba is daddy, and daddy is the disciplinary archetype. Mama, she's the one who, well, she's the loving, embracing one. So her energy is embracing, and she draws people into her arms, and she coagulates and coalesces, whereas the male energy is electric and radiating, and it voids love, it disciplines. And so this is why Babylon the Great must fall, because Babylon the Great is on this planet for one purpose alone: to divide the spoils, to conquer through division. Whereas matriarchy, which was the true path on this planet up until about 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, this is the force that unites all, and this is what syncretism is. This is what I'm teaching, syncretism, rather than the opposite, which is division and fragmentation. They thrive on fragmentation. They love to see black people in the ghettos, and they love to see white people struggling to get a white collar or a blue collar or whatever it is that they want. Some people want 3 SUVs. Some people want 4 investment properties. They're not happy with one. Some people want a big bank account, and it's got to be in Switzerland. Other people need Rolex watches and all sorts of things. And everything that is looked for in this world that is outside of you is part of the Maya illusion, which will inevitably lead to suffering. But in many cases, many must walk through the fire and get burnt. They must be they must be tricked. They must be sold a lie from time to time, because they've got to experience the bitterness of the lie to see the effect, so that they can appreciate the truth and what the truth does. The truth vivifies. The truth enlightens. The truth is life-giving. It's a creature. It cannot be killed. You can only serve the truth. The lie is the master. You can't even serve the lie. You can't do that, because it's a master. You can only serve truth, and the truth is not a master. You see, because it doesn't dominate. You dominate the truth when you learn the truth, and those that choose to serve truth, these are the ones that will be justly rewarded. There's the rewards of virtue and honor and dignity. These are the true rewards. These are the rewards that you have in heaven, where moth and rust cannot consume. Don't learn any of these things in church.
And that's the thing, because we have this religious control system and it has been set up. And when you talk about Babylon, then it's not necessarily, normally what would be evoked in most people's minds would be an ancient culture that has long since disappeared. However, when we talk about Babylon and we talk about bloodlines, we're talking about a continuation of that control system, essentially the paternal controlling system, which continues through, for example, the church, or through monarchies around the world, or governmental organisations, or the judiciary, which you've so eloquently talked about. So we have judges or magistrates and priests and scribes, and they're linked because that's a huge part of this control system. So tell us a little bit about the links between, say, the judiciary and then religion, or organised religion as we see it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, let's look at the links, because you'll see how they work hand in glove. And as Jordan Maxwell says, there's no religion that is not political. There's no political party that is not religious, because one is the left hand and the other is the right hand. But you will find that when you go to court and you pay attention, you will notice that the court has two other roles. One role is commerce, the bank.
Yep.
And the other role is God, the church. So the judge is dressed in black because that's what priests do, and he's sitting on the bench, and the bench is another word for bank, banco. So he is the banker. He will steal money out of your trust account, out of your estate. That's why he's invited you via the summons to come to his illegal, illicit, commercial place of business. And he wants you to tell them, are you Mr. So-and-so? And then you stand up and you say, yes, Your Honour, I am Mr. Santos Bonacci. And reason being is they need a live beneficiary of the estate to stand up, put life to their documents, and so that they can, by you committing the fraud of saying that you are that name because it's their intellectual property, they now are entitled to turn you into the trustee and they the beneficiaries, and off they go. When the judge slams down his little hammer and he says, okay, $1,000 fine, 6 months of community service, off you go, Mr. Santos Bonacci. Well, he's got your signature on a piece of paper which allows him to pay himself the $1,000 via the fine, but he also takes that signature and hypothecates it and leverages your trust account to sell that bond, that constructive bond that created the court case, and he goes and sells that to the banker and makes some more. It's a security. They are securitizing your signature and your case, and they are leveraging them and selling them on the market. And in this way, the elite families through their corporations have got pools and pools of stolen money, stolen property off the chattel. And so this is the reason why, if you pay attention, you'll see the threefold nature of these courts, that they are banks and that they are churches. The magistrate is an ordinary. An ordinary is the officer of the Inquisition. The clerk is a cleric. The cleric is a church officer of the Inquisition. The prosecutor is just what it says, the guy who's standing in your skin accusing you, just like 500 years ago when the Vatican said, oh, all you good Catholics in the world, how about you do a little bit of spying for us good little cardinals and the Pope and all of your controllers, and how about why don't you dob in your neighbours if you see them practicing a little bit of hermeticism or the tarot cards, or just generally denying the universality of the Catholic Church? Would you like to just inform on them and let us know what's going on with your neighbours, and we'll pay them a visit and we'll save them? Well, lo and behold, we have millions of Catholic people who are, by nature, by virtue of the fact that they call themselves Catholic, who are guilty of mountains and mountains of sin and karma. Every Catholic who calls himself a Catholic is guilty of two sins: of being an informer, because their organisation deals in informing. This is why a lawyer or a prosecutor will accuse you in a courtroom, and you go to the judge, the ordinary, for a hearing, and the ordinary says, will the accused please stand? We are to commence this hearing. And how are you acting today? Of course, everybody's acting.
Yep.
And another expression they use a lot is, well, you've got a presiding judge. Yeah, because he's already cited. He knows that he's serving the bar, the British accredited registry. These guys are foreign agents working directly for the Vatican. And so what you see is that all of these entities, they are all paying homage to their god, to their fiction, to their lord, which is Gammon. They do not serve. These are the evil slaves. Remember, if you know the Gospels well, Jesus says, "I will go away, and when I come back, and if the slave has said about beating up my servants, I will throw the evil slave out, and I will put in their place the faithful and discreet slave who will administer the meat and apportion it at the proper time." Well, these judges and magistrates and priests and people who we are told that we should look up to and give respect because of their positions, they are not the faithful and discreet slave who are looking after the Lord's possessions. They are raping them. They are taking advantage of them. You go to church, if you're thinking of joining a church, please don't bring your children, because they're going to be raped, because the churches are full of pedophiles. Now, the other sin that the Catholics are guilty of is pedophilia. Every single Catholic who calls himself a Catholic is a pedophile, by virtue of the fact that they belong to an organisation that protects them. Simple as that. Therefore, a Catholic is, in parentheses, a pedophile. There's no other way to put it. If you're a Catholic, you're a pedophile. That's what you are. Because why would you belong? Why would you stay? Even if it's nominal, you know, I'm just a Catholic, it's just nominal, I don't go to church, but I just call myself. Why would you even associate yourself with such an aberration, a miscarriage of, it's an abortion of monstrous proportions. This church that claims to be Christian is nothing of the sort. It's a murder machine. And every single Catholic, by virtue of the fact that they know that any priest that is caught in their midst raping a little boy will get a slap on the wrist and sent down to another diocese, that is what I call a pedophile boys' club. That's why the scriptures say, "Get out of Babylon the Great if you do not want to share with her in her sins." Every church-going person on this planet is a pedophile, because they belong to pedophile churches that are abusive, and that they belong to a dobbing in system whereby you inform on the renegade, heretic unbelievers who practice Hermeticism or something like that, and you inform on them, and therefore you are a murderer. So they're murderous. You know, there's no redemption for churches. They are on the fast and furious road to hell, and we will see this destruction, eternal destruction and damnation of the churches with our own very eyes in the next few months. Mark my words. Babylon the Great will fall in 1 hour, and the world will be left in shock. They will just say, how could such an institution that was here one day be gone the next? It'll be like when in '89, when the Berlin Wall was completely destroyed and the symbol of division became a symbol of unification. And that's how it will be when we, the conscious, destroy the fictions with our fire of consciousness.
And how or when will this happen, Santos?
It's happening now as we speak, my brother. As we speak and put forth out into the universe these beautiful words of creation, which are spoken in a way to bring love and truth to mankind, then we are adding building blocks to the critical mass which will cause it to happen. It's inevitable. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. My brother, if you have any fear, you might as well discard it, because it does not serve you. Because all there is to look forward to in the future is sheer bliss. All that is required of you is one thing for you to participate in that sheer bliss. You need to decide that you want to be a part of it. That's all you've got to do. That's how easy it is. You just have to turn the switch on and will it to be, and you will be the creator of it. You can do whatever you want. For Jesus said, you will do greater works than these that I am doing. Now please, when I quote Jesus, I'm not quoting a historical Jesus. I'm quoting the perennial philosophy, the perennial hermetic wisdom that the Gospels ripped off. The Gospels are ripped off Pythagoras, Plato, Hermes, Orpheus, Dionysius, and all of those types. That's where they come from.
And just to interject there a little bit with regard to the Gospels, because so many people either see them as a gospel or B, as a complete fiction which is made up and is of no value whatsoever. But what you're hypothesizing and what you're showing on your website, universaltruthschool.com, and through your work, is that essentially the gospel is this ancient knowledge that we all should have, and it's imparting that, but as you say, it's been hijacked for nefarious purposes by the control system or the church or whatever we want to call it. And because of that, people then assume, because they're put in a box A or B, as I described there, they assume that that's all it can be, and they don't actually look at what it is, which is a whole and a universal truth, to use your term.
Yeah, spot on. Absolutely well said. Couldn't have said it any better. In this world, there are three types of people. There's believers, there's total unbelievers, which label themselves atheists, and then there's the ones that know that both of them are wrong, and that know the divinity through direct knowledge. These are the knowers. This is why Gnosticism, knowing, is so important. Believing is for fools, and even greater fools are the ones who criticize the believers and deny all things and just believe in material emptiness. They're both wrong. They're both suffering from diseases which are associated to ignorance, superstition, and fear. And you can't tell them that, of course, because they are so puffed up with pride, and they're so proud of being a believer or an agnostic or a disbeliever or an atheist and things like that. They're proud of these labels and these stances that are condemning them from ever knowing. Knowledge is. Why would you not serve knowledge and truth? Why would you delight in ignorance and stupidity and what churches have to offer? I don't know, but I guess people are not ready for the truth, I guess. They can't handle it.
I think either they're not ready for it or they're not even aware that there is a truth out there, because you see so many people going about their daily lives, and I would include myself for a large portion of my life in this, and I thought that's all there was. There was a material world, and while I was brought to Mass, I was brought up as a Catholic, and while I was brought to Mass when I was a child or whatever, I quickly rejected that because it was boring and because it didn't seem relevant to me, and why would these guys dressed up in robes have any relevance or meaning to my life? So I automatically, for quite a long time, rejected spirituality as a result and fell into the trap. And that's how I see it. It is a trap, because you either embrace this organised religion that you're brought up with, or you reject it completely, and there is no middle ground and there is no questioning. And that's what we're trying to do here today. We're trying to open up this question to people, because it's not black and white. There is a massive, I wouldn't even call it a grey area, I call it a coloured area, because you've described Joseph's coat of many colours and the chakras, and that's what's there if people choose to scratch between the surface and look beyond the materialism, I think.
Yeah, well said. I'm enjoying how you're summing that up so well, and it's absolutely so true. The world is churning out believers and doubters, and that's because we've been in the age of Pisces. One fish is a doubter and the other one is a believer. I believe, I doubt. Whoops, wait a minute, I believe now. No, hang on. No, I'm doubting. And see, and these are the two fish. That's why the fish have bands tied around them, because you can't separate this kind of duality. If you want to live in duality where you believe 1 minute and then you doubt, well, go ahead. But Aquarius, when you look at the sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is now rising in the east on the 21st of March at the equinox. You can see the head of Aquarius. You can see it there coming through the head, and it's coming up, and so you can see the age. We're going to be in the age of Aquarius for 2,000 years. Well, Aquarius is pouring water out of his urn. And that water is the spiritual waters of knowing. And so this sign is a fixed air sign, and it's so different to the mutable water sign of Pisces. It's a sign that when we go through it, it naturally divides the kingdom down below, as above, so below. Mm-hmm. If Pisces is a divided sign, and we're going through it, we're going to be divided. But if Aquarius is a sign of knowing and spiritual waters and truths and mental spiritual goodness, and we're going through it, well, as above, so below. And we will see how, as the sun goes through the signs, we also go through the same condition. Because the sun is our big brother. The sun is Archangel Michael. It's an entity. It's a being. It's a creature. And it's made up of myriads and myriads of angels. What we call angels. They're just psychic, mental creatures who have never ever materialized as we have as human beings. And the reason we have is because we were created above their order. We are superior to angels. Angels don't incarnate with these kind of low vibrating bodies. We took these bodies on because we are the ones that we are going to be manifold blessed when we return whence we came from. But the angels will never ever those angels, they will never go to the place where we will go, which is way, way higher than them, because we are human beings that have a high destiny. And this is why it's so important. It's so important that we choose the right path, the upward path now, because we have the opportunity to go to a place which not many creatures that have been created by universal mind thinking have this opportunity. It's we the people. We are the ones. We are such a wonderful chosen race. We are so special and so divine. The kind of bodies that we have and the kind of spirits that we emanate from are of the highest order in the universe, and we are certainly adored by many, many, many creatures in this universe as one of the special creations. And we are now about to come out of our cocoon and transform this planet and this solar system and our bodies and our Merkaba vehicles, and we are going to really, really rise and inherit the higher dimensions as we go forward from now to the next few years, really. But certainly a big turning point will be the 21st of December this year, when a major shift in the twinkling of an eye, as the sun. See, the sun is still spiraling through the heavens at 108,000 miles a minute, and it is leading us to greener pastures, but it's not there yet. There's 2 months to go yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that happens, a switch, it will be like turning the lights on, and we will have direct photon belt energy focused upon our Merkaba bodies, and we will be transformed. We will be literally transformed. We may persist on this planet for a number of years. We may be transported instantly from off this planet. Certainly the ones who do not cut the grade will be eventually totally and utterly destroyed in their physical bodies, and their remaining whatever they are in terms of spiritual vibration, their souls will be transported to other planets where they have to virtually start again. They have to, it's like when you drop back a grade and you have to repeat a year at school. Mm-hmm. You never advance if you do not do so in physical bodies, because as spirit bodies, you can only be, you can't improve. And this is why we've chosen to incarnate, because we did want to improve. We did want to be a better model. Pretty much like, okay, let's have an example. All right, gold. You find it under the ground in a rock form, and it has all these impurities in it. So you put it in a furnace, and all the scoria and all the scum comes up to the surface, I believe. I mean, I've never worked in a refinery, but anyway,
Mm-hmm.
you take away the scum, and what's left is this beautiful element, pure, called gold, and you call that 24 karat gold or whatever. And you have different grades of purity. You've got 9 karat, 18 karat, and the same thing with diamonds. But a lot of these metals need to be transmuted. They need to be put through the furnace, and our physical existence is going through the furnace, and we do that so that we can have more carats at the end. And it's like, rich daddy says to his son, "Hey son, look, I've got loads of money. Now I'm a very responsible man, and you will inherit all of my money, but I can't just give it to you because I can tell that you're too young, you're too inexperienced, and you're going to squander all the money that I worked hard to acquire to give you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you into the factory, and you're going to have a 9 to 5 job. You're going to sweep the floors, and then you're going to be promoted eventually, slowly, as it's, as we see fit to promote you, and then one day you'll be sitting in my seat, and you will understand the workings of the business, and you will not be destructive because you will understand all things." And so we who are above the angels have took it upon ourselves to learn and remember these things that we are doing, going through the fire, purging our bodies so that we can be something way, way better. And that's all that we've got to look forward to. There's nothing else to look forward to. There's just bliss. It's glorious what stands before us right now in history. Glorious. There's only glory.
And do you think it could be the case then, Santos, that one must be enlightened, or at least on that path to, I suppose, transcend the physicality that we're currently experiencing? Because a lot of people who speak about enlightenment, they'll speak about the control system and how that drags people and holds people back, and that those who can break free from it are the ones who will see enlightenment first. Do you think there will potentially be a division when the time comes between those who are spiritually awake, or is it an all-encompassing event?
Look, that still hasn't been decided. In the past, when we've come to the end of the processional cycles, and the Egyptians have recorded 4 of these, according to Herodotus. He went down to Egypt 2,500 years ago, and they told him that every 12,000 years, which is a half of a processional cycle, the sun rises in a different spot. It rises in the east, then it rises in the west, then it rises in the east, then it rises in the west, and now it's rising in the east. And the Egyptians said, this has been happening since time immemorial, and it doesn't affect anything on this earth. But what it does do is it's a harvest period. The souls that have been growing and evolving on this planet are harvested, and some go to good places, others go to bad places, others remain on this planet and start a new civilization and start all over. So in the past, we've had this model that we refer to for all future models. So we really assume that on the 21st of December 2012, there's going to be this great destruction, and hallelujah, some people are going to be raptured and they're good and they're going to go over here, and the baddies are going to go over there, and we're going to see it all. Well, there's no foregone conclusions in anything, anywhere in this universe. That's not how it works. We are deciding that right now as we speak. We're creating. Now, even though we don't understand how it is that we are the creators of what's going to happen on the 21st of December 2012, one day we will understand it. We are the creative fiat in this universe. And so whether we reach critical mass in time and all are saved, or whether 10% are going to be saved and we see 90% of carcasses on this planet, and the 10% remain to rebuild a beautiful society on this planet, or the 10% get removed and shifted to a better place, and the 90% remain on this planet, and we have a FEMA concentration camp as Barack Obama and the elite families of this planet are preparing, remains to be seen. That's why the elites are doing their part to bring in the New World Order, because they're not sitting on their laurels and going, whatever's going to happen at 2012, well, let's just wait and see. They never do that. They always prepare, and they have been for millennia. And this is why they are rich, because and that's why they marry into rich bloodlines, because when they die, they know that they're reincarnating, and what happens is that bloodline families only produce children that incarnate from previous lives, and this is why they steal money off the unsuspecting poor masses and keep it in their families, because when they die and then they reincarnate on this planet, they've always got they've always got a comfortable life to come back to. They're not dumb. They're absolutely not dumb, but they are stupid.
Yeah, I understand the distinction there. And it's very interesting that you bring this up and the likes of New World Order and that kind of thing, because so many people will automatically reject ideas of an Illuminati or a Babylonian bloodline or whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to attach to it. And they'll ignore the evidence right before their eyes, such as the control system that's coming in and the fact that, of course, Barack Obama would be re-elected in inverted commas for another 4 years. Even if he wasn't, he'd still be there, albeit as Mitt Romney, because it's not him, it's two masks on the same face. And they prepare years and years in advance. So you mentioned FEMA camps in the US, and a lot of people have started to expose exactly what's going on over there, but most people choose to reject it even when the evidence is sitting right in front of them. So, for example, when we see these along, for example, the New Madrid fault line in the US, and we see these camps, these empty camps, that look just like concentration camps with barbed wire and even coffins in a lot of cases stacked up inside them, and they're empty, and people say, well, they're empty, we don't know what they're for, and we don't want to know, because sometimes the truth, and that's what we're all seeking, can be quite a bitter pill to swallow. But when the time comes, rest assured they will be put into action for one reason or another. They're not building these things for no reason.
Yeah. They steal money off us. They have their secret accounts, bank accounts. They have their CAFRA accounts. They talk about the budget. Oh, we don't have any money in the budget. We've got gazillions in the CAFRA. And the reason being is because they are building an empire. In case you haven't noticed, look around, you'll see infrastructure that points to they are trying to imprison the chattel for as long as they can. This is why they have Star Wars. This is why they have satellites monitoring us and CTV cameras, and this is why they have many prisons, and they're building more and more and more and more and more, because it's a good business. It's great business. They're not going to. They're in the God business: guns, oil, drugs, and sex, and people trafficking and killing, and all of those things. Because you make more money out of those things. If you suddenly decided you're not going to have those things, everybody would be living in peace and everybody would be rich, and they wouldn't stand out as egotistical maniacs, megalomaniacs that they want to be. They want to drive around in their Ferraris and their jet setting and have, cocktail parties and champagne and caviar, and because their lives are empty. They can't turn to the light because their works are works of darkness. And so darkness is what's crippling this planet, and it's through their greed and by choking the economy so that they can keep it out of the hands of the masses is what they are all about. And, prisons and concentration camps, and they've been doing this for thousands of years. They've turned this planet into a prison planet. They've enslaved Mother Earth. They've crippled her aura and her Merkaba by decommissioning the pyramids. They decommissioned all the holy sites, Stonehenge, Salisbury, and all of those beautiful edifices. Basically what they did was they destroyed the icosahedronal energies that were pretty much like a ley line grid system on this earth, which actually helped the earth to grow and to ascend. They destroyed that. They deliberately destroyed those ley lines and those holy temples and everything like that. And they put their structures which use inverted magic, which is called sorcery, in their place. And so people, when they go to these cathedrals and churches, they don't get enlightened anymore. They get sick. They get sick. They get magnetized with a very, very low vibrating energy, which actually makes them sick and susceptible to mind control. And this is why the churchgoers, they look stupid. I mean, go to church on a weekend and have a look at them. Go to the Jehovah's Witnesses and sit yourself in the middle of a congregation and just do a 360 degrees, have a look around. You'll see people that you can tell they're smacked out on Prozac, Zoloft, Xanax. They are unhealthy, they're stupid, They look dumb, therefore they are dumb. They're basically just got ugly, grey, dry faces because they've got no charge. They've got no electronic charge in their bodies. They've got a belief system that is negative and magnetic and destructive, and yet they believe in it. It just doesn't work. It's obvious that churches don't work, and yet people are so desperate to escape their own responsibility that they direct themselves and run towards these havens where priests take the onus upon themselves to be the teachers of these buffoons, and therefore they delegate and default on their own responsibility of doing the good work themselves. You see, we're here to perform the magnum opus, the great work. We didn't come here to get jobs, 9 to 5 and then an evening job and a pizza delivery job. Oh, I'll do 3 jobs. I'm working myself down to my bones. I've got 3 jobs. Anyone who talks like that's an idiot. We are here to work, not to do jobs, just over broke. And the good work that we're supposed to do is to sublimate, first of all, ourselves and our own turning lead into gold. And then the result of that is that everybody else does.
Exactly, and I suppose the key for so many people is to be able to recognise this, because a lot of people who might be listening to us speaking now are thinking, well, I can't relate to what the guys are talking about at all. It's too difficult for me to disseminate this knowledge in one foul swoop. But there are clues all around us, and by God, they're staring us in the face, because there's symbolism absolutely everywhere. So can you tell us a little bit about the symbology that's in front of us, Santos? Because I think it'd be very helpful for people if they can, for example, if all they take from our chat today is some of the symbology that they can see in front of themselves for the first time, then I think it's almost like a door opening a crack so that people can try and prise it fully open for themselves and look for their own universal truth.
Yeah, the symbols and the archetypes are there, hiding in plain sight, right under our noses. Symbol of Jesus Christ. In the Bible, is called Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Well, in English, it's interesting how S-U-N and S-O-N have the same sound. And, of course, deniers will declare that it's just a coincidence, but it's not. Because the Son of God is, in fact, the S-U-N of God. Because that creature in the sky that saves us every day when it rises in the morning, and the Christ shall rise, that is our Saviour. And how do I know? Well, imagine tomorrow morning that the sun doesn't come up and never will come up ever again. Well, if you're able to imagine that, well, then you know that you're dead. and the whole solar system is dead, and there's nothing in it. Because the only reason the solar system exists is because of the rays that come from the sun. And those rays, we need them every morning when it rises. Every summer we need photosynthesis for our food intake. Photosynthesis comes from the sun, last time I checked. Therefore, it is the Saviour. It feeds us, it clothes us. Photosynthesis produces the leaves, which produces the cotton and the flax and the linen that we clothe ourselves with, and the animal skins that we clothe ourselves with.
Yep.
Comes from the sun. The water, which rains from the sky, it's the sun that put the water up there in the first place. If the sun doesn't come out and precipitate and evaporate the masses of the bodies of water and turn it into gas so that it can become clouds and water again, everything the sun does to save us, it is the Saviour, it is Jesus Christ, Michael the Archangel, and the Saviour of our souls. Try and live without it if you don't agree. And if you think, oh, Santos Bonacci's an idiot, oh, he's a loony, ha, 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 I don't believe in any saviour, rah, 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 rah. Okay, well then, don't acknowledge that the sun is doing all of those things for you when you eat your cornflakes in the morning, when you eat your cereals. Remember that it is the sun that produces cereals. And therefore, it is a great symbol. Why do we see the sun on a cross? And the cross has always got 4 spokes. Because that cross is the equinoxes and the solstice, and the sun is crucified 4 times. There are 4 Gospels. It's crucified on March the 21st, September the 21st, June the 21st, and December the 21st. These are the 4 cardinal points. The cross in the skies. And that's just one symbol, or 2 symbols, the sun and the cross. And it all has to do with science. It has to do with nature unfolding itself, because there's nothing else but nature outside there anyway. What are you looking at when you look at things? It's nature.
Yeah.
And so if you want to understand nature, you have to ask her, how do you manifest Mother Nature? And she will tell you. She will tell you, the first thing she will tell you is everything is a vibration. And the word vibration has the word ra in it. Radiation, radio, radius, radioactivity, vibrate, Ra, Ram, the Ram Aries, Abraham, Israel, Torah, the law of God. All of this Ra, Sarah, Rachel, Rahab in the Bible, Rama in the Bible, Hiram, the builder of Solomon's temple. You see, all of those words have Ra in it. Serapis of Alexandria, Abraxas of the Kabbalistic Jews. All these words have Ra in it because we are rays of light. We are Ra. In the universe, there's only Ra, and that's you. You are a ray, a royal ray of light. And so, of course, the Gospels are going to be talking about Jesus, the ray of light. Look at the word pray. P-R-A, Ra, Y. Look at your brain, your bra-ain. Look at the word bran, the cereals that you eat. It all has Ra in it. Radiance. See, if I say to you, John, you are God, how can I prove that? Well, because you are light. You are a vibration. Light vibrates. Everything vibrates. Therefore, you are radiance. And radiance is Ra. And Ra is God. And you are radiance. And you are God. It's pretty easy. It's not very difficult to work all these things out. And so, if you are this radiance, and you are, well, radiance is just half of everything that happens in the universe. There's radiation and there's gravity, or gravitation. Radiation, gravitation, as Walter Russell calls it. And he said that's all there is in the world, in the universe. Gravity contracts and makes physical bodies. Radiation expands and voids physical bodies. That's why Ra is male, because masculinity is spiritual and it dissolves material forms, hence radioactivity. And that's why Marconi called the radio radio. He called it Ra God, radio, because he says it vibrates electromagnetically. The signal that I'm getting is an electromagnetic vibration. And you see the word electromagnetism is none other than gravity and radiation. Electricity is gravity and magnetism is radiation. And that's all there is. There's nothing else to talk about. You know, if you want to call me up for another interview, I'm only going to be talking about the one thing, Ra, because that's all there is that exists. Ray, light.
Yeah.
God is light. last time I checked in the Bible. I'm going to stick with that.
So when people speak about vibrations and energy forces and this kind of thing, that's exactly what they're speaking about. They're speaking about radiation and gravity and the interaction then between the two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's all there is. There's those two. That's the dualistic world. There's a force that makes shapes and forms and coagulates molecules so that bodies appear. And there's a force that dissolves those bodies. And that's it. That's called Jesus and Satan. Satan is Shatan, the resistor. Why does he resist? Because he is the resisting force of Ra, Horus and Set, Jesus and Satan, because he is trying to keep the spirit from being spiritual, and he's trying to turn the spirit into matter. See, they work together, but they work against each other. Electricity is working with magnetism, but against magnetism. It destroys all the work that magnetism does. And magnetism does the same for electricity. And they cannot exist apart from each other, and they only exist as the children of light, of undivided source 0 point light, which is what God is, the cause. And that's why we have a creator called Jehovah in the Bible. The Jehovah God is not the source. You can compare this to a carpenter. A carpenter turns around the house, he says, I just built that house. But wait a minute. Who made the wood? You didn't make the wood, Mr. Builder. So you built a house from pre-existing built things. So you're just reshaping that wood and turning it into a habitable domicile. And this is what our solar system has done. Our solar system, which is called Jehovah, the Creator, or the Created, the Creator is himself a created one, just like we. We are creators, but we are also created. But there is one that was not created, and that's the difference. The one, you see, that's the one that the carpenter turns around and says, oh yeah, I got that wood from the forest, and the forest comes from, I don't know, from air. Last time I checked, trees have their roots in the ground, but their leaves are created from photosynthesis, which means that trees and all things come from the air. The elements in the air. They come from nothing, or what appears to be nothing. Empty atoms. And so this is how the universe is created. It's dualistic in that sense, in the sense that electromagnetism is creating motion and destroying motion at the same time, but giving us the illusion of creation. And we live in this illusion called Maya. And the sooner we get out of the illusion and out of the elements and go back to spirit with the help of Ra, that's why we pray to Ra, then we will eventually be blessed in unconditioned consciousness.
And that's exactly where we're headed then, according to...
Hallelujah. What do you think about that?
Well, it's got to be an exciting time. And how can people look out for or recognise... well, I suppose they won't even have to, because it's not that we've that long to go still at this point. But you've spoken about 3 days of darkness with regard to the sun, and I suppose Christ consciousness coming then as well. Is this all going to manifest very, very suddenly? You spoke about 1 hour, the control system coming down in 1 hour. Is that going to be an astral event, or how can we look at this and understand it on a human level even?
Look, it's a bit like all the nice, unexpected surprises that you've ever had in life. They turn up. You know what I mean. You might meet someone the love of your life. You just turn around the corner, bump into someone, and all of a sudden you're having coffee, and all of a sudden you're writing down a phone number, and then you meet up for dinner, and away you go, right? Or some things happen tragically in an instant. 1 minute you're driving down the road and some drunk idiot runs a red light, and you wake up 6 months later after you've been in coma and you don't have the use of your limbs anymore.
Yeah.
Now, this is how the creation is. This is how the universe works. Some things come to you slowly over a long, long time. Other things just turn up. You know, they manifest. And look at the word manifest. It begins with the word man, because that's what man is. Woman is a manifester. And man comes from mind. And the universe is mind. And we are mind. Therefore, we should be using mind over matter. And we should be creators. So if we are ready, when this big change comes, when this shift happens, whether it's abruptly or slowly or however it happens, we will be ready, and we will not fear. There's no reason to live in fear, because if you are all that is, well, there's nothing else that is.
Exactly.
Which means that you can control all that is. And look, the sooner we come to terms with this and understand this and know this rather than believing it. See, a lot of people say to you, yeah, I know that. I believe that, Santos. I believe that I'm a creator and I can do greater things than Jesus, as he said. Yeah, I believe that. Well, stop believing it, because that's why you're not doing it, because you're believing that. You're believing it. You need to know it. You've got to go to the land of knowing, and knowing comes from studying, research, reading, thinking, applying yourself, and then you come to direct knowledge, and then you don't have to talk about believing whether you are a creator or not. You know you are doing it because you can see yourself doing it day in, day out. I see myself day in, day out creating things. Some of them are bad, and some of my creations are wonderful. You know, I can play the guitar, I can write a song, and some of the songs are beautiful. Some of them are just, who wrote that? It wasn't me. You know, throw it in the trash can. But I've created things in my life. Man, I've created some nice things, but I've also created some really bad things because I've had some bad consequences from some of my own decisions and from my own stupidity. You see? But I do know that every day I'm creating many, many, many things. And now, with my presentations and syncretism and all the things that I'm teaching, I know that I'm creating good things. And how do I know that? Because I get thousands of emails from people all around the world saying, thank you, Santos. Whereas before I was confused because I was believing in a religious path, now you've joined all the correct dots for me, and now I know the truth. And so I know that I've helped thousands of people to get on the true path of the true theology, and not to mess around with all this bullshit church stuff. Get out of there. Get out of Babylon. Come on, let's be free. Let's be sovereign, or want of a better word. Let's be free, and let's be God-like, and let's be the hero and divine, and let's exalt. Let's forever go upwards, forever forward, forever bettering ourselves and evolving and developing and growing. Let's.
So essentially what you're saying is know thyself. And that is our universal truth, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Know thyself, and you will know the gods of this universe, and you will know your true nature. Protagoras said, man is the measure of the universe. In other words, if you want to know anything about the universe, and that means anything, study yourself first. Study You might want to study astrology first, because astrology teaches you who you are. When you look at your birth chart, for instance, you can see where your Mars is. My Mars is in Leo, which is the heart. So I know why I have a very hot, dry, fiery, action heart. You know, I'm very passionate and exuberant sometimes when I'm on my favorite subject.
Yeah.
And that's because Mars is in my heart. So I know myself. But having Mars in Leo is also very detrimental, because, you know, it's hot and dry, and it can make you very choleric. It can make you very angry. It can make you very forthright, and sometimes you have to pull back your arrogance, because you want to emphasize, you know, your passion and let it be known and let it be seen. So all things have to be controlled and balanced. See, when you do your chart, you can find out where your sun is. Well, it's easy to find out where your sun is. All you have to do is remember your birthday. My birthday is March the 24th, so I'm Aryan. So I got my sun in my head, in my cerebrum, because Aries is in the top of the head. Now, if you're a Scorpio, that means your sun is in the generative area. If you're a Leo, your sun is in your heart. Now, you have a look at your Leo friends. Just have a good look at them.
I'm Leo myself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, take a look at yourself, and what you'll see, what you'll notice instantly is that you, when you walk around and when you project yourself, you are projecting yourself from your heart. You are conscious and focused on your heart. To you, your pride and your honor and your name as a Leo, and your heart and your emotions, the emotions of your heart, are important to you. These are fiery people who are very feline in nature, sometimes cold, sometimes very hot, very radiant people, very magnetic, and these are the Leo people. They enjoy the limelight, and they like to show off from time to time. You know, they're very good at this, and I have a Leo ascendant, so I know.
Well, I can relate to exactly what you've said, completely and utterly.
Yes, you are coming from your heart. You can't but come from your heart, because you are a Leo. Your brother who is a Virgo, or your friend who is a Virgo, you'll find that they are more meticulous and discriminating, and you'll find that they are analytical, and they've got the mercurial brain, but they're also focused on sensual, earthy things and the belly, because Virgo is one step down from Leo. It rules the belly. So these people are much more sensual when they put delicious food on their palates. They are much more meticulous when they, when they put their papers on their desk, in a certain way. Whereas a Leo will probably just be a little bit messy, a bit flamboyant, not as meticulous as say a Geminian or a Geminian's not a good example. Virgoan, that's a good example. And so, you find that the Leo person is a little bit more happy-go-lucky and a little bit more caution to the wind, but whereas the Virgoans can be very anal sometimes. They just want every detail, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, okay, I told you that. What else? Why are you asking the same question again? Because they want to make sure that every detail is stitched and sewn up properly and everything and they pay attention to these things. You see, this is why school classrooms are an aberration, because you've got little kids there. You've got Leos thrown in with Cancerians and Capricorns, and they just don't mix, because a Leo child is intuitive and mystical. They need to be taught by mystical and spiritual natured ways, mediums of teaching, whereas your Capricorns and your Taurians and your Virgoans, you give them some things to touch and smell and taste, and you teach them through the senses, and they will learn amazingly. And you get your air, your Geminians and your Librans and your Aquarians, and you give them a lot of mental work to do, and they will thrive. But you can't give mental stuff to a Cancerian. Cancerians are all about emotion, and Pisceans and Scorpios, they want to learn with a teacher that uses a lot of graphs and emotions and very catering to the emotion, you see. And so you've got 4 different ways. This is where classrooms should be divided. You have all the fire signs in one classroom, and you teach them with intuition. You have all your air signs, and you teach them mentally. You have your water signs, and you teach them emotionally. And you have your earth signs, and you teach them with the senses, the 5 senses, and you will have great success. And this is where astrology, the mother of all science, will eventually one day be the saviour of this planet when we return to the great sciences of the past.
Absolutely fascinating, and it's a topic that I don't have huge knowledge about myself, and I know a lot in my peer group certainly wouldn't. It's not something that's thought, and it's, for a lot of people, astrology, it's the realm of the back pages of a red top newspaper, you know, and they would see it as nonsense. And the more I look into it over time, and particularly over the last 6 months or so, the more I see the truth within it. Yeah,
it's astrology cannot lie. There's no lying in astrology. Your birth chart, it tells a story, just like a snowflake. They're all individual. There's not one alike. There's no two similar or alike, but they tell the truth. Every flake tells the truth because they cannot lie. And every birth chart tells you why you are the way you are. If I look at your birth chart, I can tell you what in medical infirmities you are likely to have in the future, whether chronic or acute. And usually you'll find that the slow planets, like Saturn, he will be, in fact, the name of Saturn is Kronos, and Saturn is, in medical astrology, Saturn is known for the chronic illnesses. Mars is a very fast planet. It takes 2 years to orbit, as opposed to Saturn's 30 years. Therefore, Mars is responsible for acute illnesses. So when I look for Mars in someone's chart, and let's say I see Mars in Taurus, well, I know that if Mars is badly aspected, I can advise the native that they will probably have some acute problems with their, perhaps their thyroid gland, or they may lose their voice, or they may have some acute illness will visit them in the throat or the lower head region, because Mars, the malefic, is badly placed in that spot. Now, I've done thousands and thousands of charts for people, and I've picked things like all sorts of things: diabetes, rheumatism, goiter, headaches. I've picked liver problems, kidney problems. I've picked spinal problems, shootings, people who've been shot. You can tell in the chart. You can tell people if they're going to have dangers in their life. Every time I do charts that have danger in there, I'm very cautious, because I wait for the person to tell me how many times they've fallen off ladders and how many times they've broken their bones. I've picked people with bone fractures. One gentleman, he said, I've broken just about every bone in my body. I said, yeah, well, there it is. It's in your chart. It's right here. There it is. This degree of, the 7th degree of Capricorn or whatever, it's there. It doesn't lie. It never lies. There is never, ever, ever a lie in astrology. And this is why it is poo-pooed and derided by all the buffoons on this planet, because it's so powerful and so beautiful and so freeing that the elites cannot afford for it to be known as such. They must keep up their propaganda and their onslaught and their barrage of debasing this great and holy science. They must keep it up, otherwise they lose. Because once astrology is firmly implanted on this planet, which it will be, because I will make sure it will be, then bye-bye priests, bye-bye magistrates, bye-bye kings, elite, bye-bye all of the fictions, and you can rest assured that you will see these changes in the next few months with your own eyes. You will see them.
So, Santos, if anybody is interested in learning more and in finding out more, they can check out your website, of course, universaltruthschool.com. Is there anywhere else that you would direct people?
Yeah, my YouTube handle is Mr. Astro Theology. Not Mr. Astrology, Mr. Astro Theology. And you can go there and you can watch 24-hour presentations that teach pure syncretism. No divisions, no compartmentalizing. I don't treat the tarot as if it's this separate idea that doesn't belong with the rest. You know, like the little red-haired, freckled boy in the classroom, you know, who looks different to all the other kids or whatever.
Yeah.
The tarot is invited, Kabbalah is invited, Hinduism is invited, all you Muslims are invited, all you Christians are invited, all you Hermetists, witches, wizards, twin spirits, fat people, skinny people, black people, white people, tall and short. Everybody owns syncretism. It's our religion. It's our way. It's the future. It's back and it's here to stay.
Well, that's a very fine sentiment and a fine message to end things on as we continue our journey from fiction to truth. I have the power, you have the power, we have the power. Santos Bonacci, it's been a huge pleasure talking to you today on Alchemy Radio. I very much look forward to having you back on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alchemy Radio.
Alchemy Radio.